All right, so welcome to the first podcast.
Well,
For people that don't know, Luke is a recruiter that's focused on recruiting C-suite executives. I've built multiple AI platforms in the last year or two, and we're going to talk about how AI impacts the workplace and also everything involved in the job market. We might branch out from that over time, but for the purpose of this first episode, we're going to try to keep it pretty tightly focused on how the recruitment process has changed and what job seekers need to do to get better results, what recruiters need to do to get better results. And we are uniquely placed to talk about this because we happen to be the co-founders of a platform that provides services that helps both recruiters and candidates. And uses AI. We're pretty clear about what AI can do and not do, and what
that's right. Yep.
technology can do and not do. Let's see where this goes. I want to start, Luke, with a statistic to kick this off.
hmm
And something like 80% of candidates are using AI to create resumes, and something
hmm
like 60% of recruiters are using AI to review resumes. Now, given that
Yep.
those numbers are both over 50%, we've officially entered into a new era where the process of applying for a job is now handled by AI talking to AI,
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy, isn't it?
Not something that's going to happen in the future. That is a statistic about today. So for
Yeah,
some
no,
people,
I'm totally seeing that too, Adam. And you know what? The recruitment and the whole recruitment process, I think, really has been sort of at the forefront of what's happened with AI since, OpenAI launched in November, was it 22? We're seeing the actual, rubber hitting the ground, and I think we're one of the first industries that sort of really embraced AI.
right, right. So look, what we want to do, or what we want to try to achieve in this podcast is to just help both candidates and recruiters figure out how to get the best results out of this unusual situation for
hmm
themselves. So obviously for recruiters, well, let's just go back to the candidates. I'll start with the candidates. The candidates need to figure out how they're going to stand out to a machine, right?
Yeah,
And on the flip side, recruiters now know that a machine will generate a resume that says everything the recruiter wants to hear. So the recruiters have to be thinking, well, how do I know that all of these claims in a resume are real, right?
yeah. Yeah,
So,
and because you know what I've seen is that the quality of resumes and applications and application letters has significantly increased
yeah,
over the last few years, the last couple of years in particular, exactly for that reason. So you're right. So now it's like, CVs look great. You're not having the typical sort of spelling errors or the issues around just a low quality CVs in courier type or whatever going way back. But
yeah,
the trick is now, well, how do we differentiate? And you're right, the approach from the contemporary recruiters, because there's still a lot of old school ones. I think you said 60%, so that means there's 40% still, not on board. We've actually had to come up with ways to deal with, how do we sort of process that new agenda?
right. So let's just talk about some possible approaches that candidates might take, and then let's think about how they come across to recruiters. So the one old school thing that a lot of people have been doing for a long time that still applies in some cases is hiring a human to write a resume for them. So this is something that I think is going to be pretty critical for some people and completely useless for others. So let's just try to clarify who is in which category. Because when I think about it, like in I mean, I guess the first point to make is that a resume is obviously clearly ridiculously important, and it does
Yes.
justify an enormous amount of time and effort, regardless of whether you're writing it yourself or whether someone else is writing it. The reality is that just one line about one important point could catch the eye of a recruiter.
Yeah.
and it makes all the difference. So it is something that must be um, it's something that justifies a lot of time and effort. The question is, do you need another human expert to help you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Look, the really the key and sole role of a resume is really to get you an interview. That's really its purpose. Like it's
Right.
you send it in, and the idea is that it garners enough attention and interest that you actually get an interview. So if it's not doing that, it's not doing its job. So I think that's first point to sort of just really note. I guess the question is, do you need a human to write it, or can AI write it? Well, and this may improve, I guess, as with AI as it gets better over time. But we start to see similarities in CVs that have come through via AI, and we see lots of them, right? So you might be writing it as a candidate, you might be writing it through, using one of the LLMs to come up with a CV. You think it looks perfect, and it's original, but you start to see similar approaches. So you kind of know, and we almost assume now that a CV is written by AI. So this is potentially where I think someone like a human can help. Someone who's seen lots of CVs and knows, you need to make it a bit different to stand out, so it doesn't just look like an AI generated piece of work.
Mhm.
So I think that's important. But if you're capable enough and you understand, what I'm saying, then I think potentially you could just use AI, workshop it yourself, make sure you're putting enough of your own self and your own style and capabilities into it to come up with a solution.
Right, right. So the first thing that comes to my mind is that um, if your native language is not the language that you're applying in, then
Yeah,
this could
yeah,
be very important.
yes,
If
yes,
you're
you're right.
applying from another country, this could be very important because if you just go to AI, it might just give you a default Americanized version or whatever version based on whatever assumptions that LLM is making. There are a lot of local customs that matter in different parts of the world, and in some cases, or in many cases, in some very specific industries. And then on
Yeah, I
the
think you're right, Adam. That's a smart approach. So if you don't understand or you're not familiar with the culture of a country or a work a workplace or an area you're trying to focus on, then you should
yeah,
definitely have someone who is familiar with that have a look at it.
right. I mean, like if you're applying for an industry for the first time, maybe you're switching industries and you just
Mm.
and you're still new to it all. Well, you need to either do a ton of research, or you need to get some help from somebody that knows what people in that industry are actually looking for. The other side of it is that, given the statistic that we started with, the reality is that your resume will first be read by an AI, and only
Yep.
if it gets a high job fit score from the AI will it then be read by a recruiter. And then I can throw another statistic at people, which is a bit of an unfortunate one, but it is what it is, and that is that the average recruiter apparently is spending 6 seconds reading a cover letter and a resume. And I think one of the reasons that they're doing that is because the AI is doing the heavy lifting. So if it's already identified something positive, then it is easy for the recruiter to literally just scan a cover letter and a resume, to just confirm that whatever the AI has told them is correct. And that's how you get to the 6 seconds. But the point is that when you're creating a resume, you need to make sure that it includes everything that triggers the AI to generate a high job fit score. Now,
Yeah.
we
Yeah. No,
we
I'd agree because then otherwise you just don't pass that gate.
right.
So, and if
Otherwise,
the job of a CV, as I mentioned, is to get you that interview, well,
yeah,
you're right. You're not jumping the hurdle.
right. So you need to do a lot. So you, meaning as a candidate, you need to do a ton of research to make sure that you've actually written this the right way. Or alternatively, you need to get a human resume writer to help you, or you need to use a service, like, I mean, you can use ours, you can use someone else's. I mean, we're not here to just sit and, be salespeople pitching your own thing, but I mean, it's free, so I don't know why you wouldn't use it, but you need to get some assistance from somewhere if you don't know what you're doing. Otherwise, as I said in one of our promo videos, if you don't get this right, your application is literally dead on arrival. Not only will you, I mean, it literally will not be read. You know, the
Yeah.
AI will review your application and reject you, and no human will ever know that you even ever applied. So this is like, you know, a real life and death scenario for your application in terms of, you know,
It is. Yeah,
yeah.
I'd agree. Just on the 6 second thing, just to sort of clarify that, I'd agree that's probably about right for certainly for volume type roles. Um, that I'd agree with that. I think as you sort of move up the tree, so I mean, I wouldn't review a CV in 6 seconds. Like that's,
If
you
you're
know,
hiring a
that's
CEO.
yeah, no, like they get a bit more time than that. But just yeah, just to clarify, but certainly in you know in
Well,
volume type
you've never
roles.
sent an applicant an email that says, after reviewing your application for 6 seconds, I've determined you're not suitable for the job.
No, no, but you know, it differs from you know role type to role type. So I mean, if you're
Okay.
hiring grads for a you know for a KPMG or a PwC or whatever, you're literally the process is reviewing thousands of applicants.
Right.
So you know that's different to an executive search. Obviously, when you know you're perhaps looking at maybe you know 30, 40, 60 odd
Right.
CVs. So
Well, we might. I've got a little note to come back to entry-level jobs now that you bring that up later, but we might run out of time. So let's see how this goes. If not, we'll talk about it in a future episode. But okay,
sure.
so now the final variation of the resume, because this is obviously very important for everybody, both the recruiter and the candidate, is another option, which is a video resume or video cover letter or a combined video resume and cover letter. So it goes without saying that it's a way to stand out because very few people do it, but it does have its pros and cons. What are your thoughts?
This is kind of new. Like I haven't seen too many of these popping up as yet. So I do think it's an opportunity to stand out. What I like about it is you get a sense of the candidate. You know, so
Right.
you have an opportunity to kind of you know get that preview what they're like. You know how they articulate, you know, and their ability to maybe sort of say some things that garner your attention. So that certainly is attractive. I'd agree with that.
So of course, the irony is that people like us will probably create a service where we offer an AI avatar that candidates can use to create a video resume. But of
Mhm.
course, I'm sure every candidate understands that in most cases, you're generally going to end up having to do a real interview at some point. And you know, the AI avatar might be able to do that in one day in the future. But when we get to a point where the AI avatar can do that in the future, the entire job market has taken another step forward in its evolution and everything has changed again and will require a whole different conversation. But for the purposes of today, the reality is that if someone writes a resume with AI, but they send in a real video as a supplement, right?
Mhm.
So they're not going to just recite their entire resume because that's a boring as shit video. And B, it's useless because what's the point of reciting what's already been written? But
Yes.
so I think of it as more of the way that I would do it would be something like, you know, just explaining why you're interested in this specific job and pointing out two or three things that are in the job description that are in your background that you think make you a perfect fit.
Yeah.
So the information is relevant, but you're also presenting your ability to just work through a simple process of a sequence of events, sorry, where you read something and then you've gone and drawn a conclusion in your own mind, and then you've presented your conclusion on camera, which is something you do in a job, right? You look at a
Yeah.
situation, you assess it, and you say, okay, here's what I think. So it actually demonstrates your real communication skills. It demonstrates your personality, and those things are completely eliminated by a resume and cover letter that's written by AI, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree totally with that, Adam. So what you're doing, you're actually showing that you've invested real time. You know, you care about the process, and it's you know like prior to AI, when you had to craft a resume or a CV, you put a lot of thought and effort into it, and now that has obviously been compressed with these AI driven or AI created CVs and the like. So
Right.
this is that extra piece which makes it worthy of a recruiter's consideration.
Right, right. And correct me if I'm wrong, because there's not many people doing it. Surely, if you're scanning through, if you're spending your 6 seconds reading 40 resumes, and then you see one that says, "Here's a link to my video resume," surely you're gonna look at it just out of curiosity for no other reason.
Well, as I said, I certainly spent a bit more than 6 seconds, but I would look at it in any case. Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get a
So,
feel for the person straight away. So, and you
right,
know what? A lot of the screening part of a recruiter's job is really getting the feel for, what's the person like? How do they
right,
articulate? Are
right.
they
And
do they
in
come across as intelligent? Do they have the gravitas? And you're kind of getting this. You're kind of shortcutting that. So in some ways, it's saving you an initial call.
right.
As a recruiter, so it's like kind of saving a bit of time. If you go, oh, the CV looks good. Oh, actually, they've got a video link. Let me have a look at that. So
Mhm.
you kind of it helps you with the screening, as opposed to asynchronously trying to connect over a call or the
Right,
like. You're
right.
kind of getting that piece of data up front. So why wouldn't you do it as a recruiter?
Yeah, I think of it as it's almost I've said this before in some of our promo videos for our platform, but it's like a pre-interview, right? So
Yep.
instead
Yeah.
of like it doesn't make any sense to me to sit there and say, well, I'm going to send my bland black and white PDF resume that makes a bunch of claims that are unprovable, and then hope that the recruiter is going to read it and give me an interview where then and only then will I demonstrate my ability to actually prove my claims, right? When instead I have the ability to just create a video, and then the video is like a little preliminary interview, right? And
Yeah.
because there's not many people, other people that are providing the video, it captures attention, and that has to give me an advantage. So, of course, it may not overcome or will not overcome a lack of qualifications, but in a case where it's 50-50, it has to make a difference. So, but I just want to quickly transition to the potential downside of this because we have to talk about the realities as well, right? Well, the
Yep.
first one
Sure.
is that a lot of people don't come across well on video. So if you know you don't come across well on video, don't create the video. The whole point of this, what we're talking about here, is how to get the best result for you, right? On the other hand,
Hmm.
if you do come across well on video, or if you're a people person, you talk well, then take advantage. Everyone's got strengths and weaknesses. You have to take advantage of whatever your strengths are. But this does bring up the obvious issue of bias. So people are going to occasionally, some recruiters are going to look at a video and they're going to say, well, I don't like any number of um, things that should be irrelevant about this person, like whether, like what they're wearing or what's going on in their background. And by the way, obviously, if you do this, you need to make sure that your background is either clean or professional or blurred out or whatever. But anyway,
Hmm.
or it could be obviously anything that comes down to the usual factors that people are concerned about, like race, age, um, whether you think you're attractive or not,
Yeah.
whether you
Yeah.
think you're overweight or not, all the usual things that are the biases that come into all of this. So I don't know what you want to add to that, but clearly, if you're insecure about these things, you shouldn't do it. And also going back to the issue of like overseas people or people that don't have English as their first language, this sort of can work in both ways, right? So if the recruiter knows you're from overseas, they're probably thinking, well, I wonder if they speak good English. Well, if you want to demonstrate that you do, make the video. On the other
Yep.
hand, if your English is terrible, don't make the video, but keep in mind that they'll eventually find out your English is bad when you do an interview. So I don't know what you want to add to all of that, but there's obviously a lot of pros and cons there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've thought a bit about this. The bias obviously exists, right? Because there are humans who have different biases, and everyone brings their own sort of perspective to things. Um, from a recruiter's perspective, I mean, the best recruiters see through those things, and I think the technology doesn't change the situation as such. I really don't. Like you said, it's a preview. If we're talking about the video interviews, it's a preview of the ultimate interview. So if you manage to get through the first gate, then whatever biases, which people bring, and often you don't even know what they are. Unfortunately, they're going to be there when that person is talking to you and interviewing you on the other side. So it hasn't changed it.
100%. If you're going to end up
But
doing
yeah,
an eventual human interview, there's a very strong argument that says that this is actually a good way to just filter everything out. I
correct.
mean,
So you're
like
not
what I
wasting
would,
time, right?
right?
Um,
Like you're basically saying, well, like why would I go through a process of maybe answering follow-up questions and then doing some pre-interview and like just work through. Sometimes there's a whole process that involves many steps. Well, if it turns out that you get to the end of this and someone says, well, I've decided I don't like this person's accent or whatever. Well, you could have avoided all of the work leading up to that by just sitting an interview and letting that biased person effectively eliminate you from the list, and you can go spend your time on something more productive. So,
well, and I guess the positive side of doing a video interview as a candidate is you're presenting yourself, right? So the job process is due diligence on both sides. So, you want to get the culture fit right. And if you're going, well, this is me, this is how I present myself in a professional or in a work situation. And if, the recruiter doesn't like that, then maybe I'm not the right fit. And so I think the benefit of technology is AI is driving it, I guess, still is helping us get to that efficient, is this the right person? Are you the right company in a faster, more effective way? AI, the tools, some of the things that one click worker makes, but also just generally, it enables candidates to present themselves in the best way. So you're bringing forward, because you can't make up your experience, right? I mean, you can, but that's fraud, right? But you can certainly present what you've got and what you've done in the best way possible that helps you connect and get the right job.
right,
And that's
right,
all this is. It's just doing it better.
right, right. Okay, so another way to stand out, and something that we're pushing that nobody else is pushing, is the idea of demonstrating your expertise on social media. So this comes out of the concept of personal branding, which is pretty well established and accepted in the world of people that are self-employed, especially like um, single person businesses that work as consultants or freelancers, right? They do this a lot, right? Think of lawyers and accountants and all professional services that are all out there constantly, and they're all one person businesses. And how do they get business? They basically send out their views about what's going on in the industry, challenges, how tech is impacting their industry, how things have changed, and so on and so on. So this is an established way to make yourself stand out in the world of people that are self-employed. But again, and we're predicting that, and we're really the pioneers of this in the employee world, right? We certainly, I believe that in a few years from now, the majority of people that want to give themselves an edge in getting a job will want to put social media content out there that demonstrates their expertise. And to clarify all of this, I'm not talking about content that's intended to go viral or generate a lot of followers. I'm literally just talking about content that establishes your authority. And
Mm.
in case it's not clear, the way this would stand out is that from a recruiter point of view, if they read a cover letter that says, look, you're hiring me about a role that will involve doing X. Well, I've gone and created multiple posts on social media about X, and here is a handful of examples. And the idea behind this is that instead of just having one line on a resume that says, I'm an expert in X, please believe me, you'll actually have social media content that demonstrates your expertise and ideally probably has some comments from your peers in the industry that talk about it. And again, this is all about, and the common theme that you're probably all picking up here is that if an AI is writing a resume, the recruiter knows that the AI is writing a resume. The recruiter's got to be thinking, I don't believe your claims in your resume. I want proof. So you can send me a video resume, you can put content, social media, do whatever you want, but I
Yeah.
need proof. I don't want to just see claims.
Yeah, no, you're right, Adam, and I agree with you. I think this is a way it's going. It's really social proof, isn't it? Like you're actually demonstrating some expertise, some knowledge, well, or some interest if you don't have deep expertise, but certainly an interest in a sector or even the company perhaps that you're interested in, and that's valuable. I mean, that's showing that you have some intrinsic motivation, and you're really focused on and becoming established, or getting into the industry if you're new, or just proving that you've got that expertise capability if you've been around for a while.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you touched on something that I think a lot of people might have missed, but it's ridiculously important, and that's our ultimate hack. What is our ultimate hack for candidates that I think is also it's not a gimmick for recruiters, it's a real thing. And that is that when you're creating, if you decide
So I'm
that you
just
want
laughing
to,
because you use the word hack, and you're so
well,
tech.
because but it is a hack, right? The thing is that it's not only helpful to demonstrate your expertise with social media, you can go one step further and write content about your target employer. So if you've seen a job listing for a job now, and a lot of them will be open for 2, 3, 4 weeks, you might decide, well, I'm going to do something a little bit sneaky. I'm going to write some content about my target employer, but specifically relating to the work that I need to do for this job. So if if I can just use a generic example for anybody so that anyone would understand. So maybe like it's marketing, for example. So maybe you're applying for a marketing job with a target employer, and then you go look at how they've been promoting their products or what their social media content looks like. And then you can actually create a case study type piece of content and put it out there and say, here's what this company did, and here's what and this is the results, and this is what everybody can learn from it. So
I don't know if sneaky is the right word. I think, that's just demonstrating some capability. I mean, I know you hired a lot of freelancers in your time, and you'll often ask, won't you? You'll ask them to demonstrate their capability by doing a piece of work. Happens in tech all the time, piece of code, a coding test.
Yep.
People want to see what, or even in design, what's your portfolio like? Like this is it's a valid and established way of demonstrating capability and proof. All we're doing here, I guess, and what in terms of the product really is around enabling everybody to do that.
Right. Right.
Is,
Right.
is that is that how you
Yeah,
see it?
yeah, yeah. Well, absolutely. So this gives us, because we've got a little bit of time now to transition out of that hardcore content about how do you literally stand out when you're writing a resume, and how do you help a recruiter identify you as one of the good candidates, right? So so I think, because you mentioned like when I hire people, I get them to do a test project. So the reality is that I never hire anybody at all, literally nobody, without a test project. And where I'm coming from, so I've spent about 500,000 US on Upwork as a
Yeah.
client, right? And I've hired an enormous number of people, both pre-AI era and post. So firstly, I never hire anybody without them doing a test project, because my view of a resume is I don't even care about your resume. I don't even care about what education you have. I don't care about anything you've said in that resume, right? All I care about is that you've shown me a project that you've actually done before that relates to what I'm talking about. And then even that's not enough, because I'm still going to give you a test project. And surely everyone's going to go down this road. But I want to transition into a related issue here, which is that there's obviously a lot of stats out there about job opportunities for new graduates drying up.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of related issues here relating to how to apply for a job in this situation, right? And it relates to how to apply for a job in a new AI world. And the issue here is that we previously talked about how to deal with a scenario where resumes are written by AI. Well, okay, what about a scenario where the job that you're applying for can mostly be done by AI? So what's happened here is that going back to my Upwork scenario, so I used to hire a lot of devs, and since AI coding has become a thing, I can literally now complete the dev work myself in less time than it used to take for me to explain what I needed to the dev.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
therefore, I've gone from hiring a lot of devs to literally hiring zero and increasing output.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a real thing. Now, obviously, every industry will be impacted on to varying different degrees by what I'm saying. But if you're applying for a job, it's not enough to be able to say that you have certain skills or whatever. You actually need to add an extra piece that says very clearly, this is what I can do that AI cannot do. Or
Yeah.
this is how I use AI to get better results. And again, this is going to generate the best result for you
Yeah.
compared to because the employer's two scenarios are I hire someone that does not know how to use AI, or I don't hire anyone at all and I try to do it myself. As a candidate, your objective is to say, no. There's a third scenario where you hire me and I use AI, and that will generate the best result for the company.
That's it. I'm not sure who was saying it. Was it Satya Nadella or someone was saying, maybe Elon Musk, who knows, that it's not AI that will take your job. It's someone using AI who will take your job. And
Right.
that's definitely the advantage, I think, Adam, like that whole for the graduates or the juniors who perhaps this is being impacted the most by, is to demonstrate that they are natives, like the digital natives. It's an AI native
Right, but they
now.
need to go a step further, right? So when someone tells me they can use AI, well, firstly, I don't believe them. So that's why, as usual, I make them work through a project to prove it. But even if they can use it, that's still not enough, right? I need to know that you plus AI equals the optimal result for me, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because if I can get the best result without you, then I don't need you. So applicants need to not just say that they can use AI, they need to go a very clear step further and say, I will get you the best result based on whatever your company objectives are. So every job has its KPIs, right? As some way of measuring success. So you're
Yep.
going to say, I'm going to get you the best result in those KPIs, all right? Because I'm going to use AI, and the combination of me plus AI gives you that best result. If you go with AI only, you get a worse result. If you don't hire anybody, or sorry, if you hire someone that doesn't use AI, you'll still get a worse result. Just be
Yep.
very clear about the fact that the
It's
only
a
scenario,
combination. Yeah. The
yeah, that
leverage
gets the
of
best
AI that we
result,
need.
right, is you plus the AI, right? That's the clear point that we're trying to make here. Um, so all right, so we've got a couple of minutes left here. So, what on a sort of related topic? There's a new term that I've noticed out there called FOBO, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with the term FOMO, fear of missing out, and FOBO is fear of becoming obsolete. Now,
Oh. Wow.
so
Yes.
so
Yes.
what I mean for people that are listening that because I think we've said a lot of things that are helpful for people that are prepared to be gung ho and go out there and do what they need to do to get a job and do what they need to do to use AI. But what for the small number of maybe it's not small, but for the people that are actually experiencing FOBO, right? They're literally thinking, I don't know what my future purpose will be. let's not get too broad with it. Let's just stick to work here for now.
Yes. Okay.
We'll get broad in other episodes, but for now, let's just stick
Yeah.
with, my job will become obsolete and therefore I'll become obsolete. Or I'm applying for jobs against people that have a better grasp of this technology than I do.
Yeah.
What's your advice for them? I mean, is there nothing they can do, or what?
Oh no. Well, I think the worst thing to do is nothing.
Yeah,
Especially if you have that concern, and it's a valid concern because the technology is advancing so quickly. Like I don't think we've ever seen this speed of new features, new capabilities. I know even just this week was it an Anthropic pushing into the legal space, and immediately we had I think it was $285 billion in the US market of data-based companies providing legal data
mhm.
just dropping off like
Right,
overnight, right? So this
right,
is fast. These are quick, rapid changes that are impacting everybody. So firstly, I think it's valid to be nervous and concerned. Like I think that's absolutely makes sense. To be unconcerned would be naive. I think you need to
right.
work out because I mean, look at a job, a livelihood. This is how people feed themselves, their families,
Mhm.
educate children, all of that, right? So this is scary, big tectonic movements that are happening, right?
Wow.
So that's the first point. Then, as I said, doing nothing, I don't think that's an option. I think if you're doing nothing, you potentially could be steamrolled,
Mhm.
like literally.
Yeah, I
So
think that in
what
the
you can
end,
do is
it's
educate yourself. You have to
right,
get on top of these things. You have to experiment.
right, right. I think the net result of it all is that I think you just have to take a very pragmatic view of what a job is, right? And your job is to get the best result for your employer
Yep.
using every available tool. If you're not prepared to do that, you are literally not the best person for the job, and you need to consider your alternatives. That sounds very blunt, but that's the reality check I think that those people need, because the reality is that your employer is under pressure to achieve the best result, and they
Yep.
don't have
Yep.
time for philosophical dissent against AI. Right? It's
I'd
just as
agree.
simple
The,
as
the
that.
the genie is out of the bottle,
Right.
as they say.
Your job is to do the best job for your employer. Like, if you don't want to do that, you're not the best person for the job. There's just no other way to put it.
Yep.
I don't know what else to, yeah.